Welcome back to another Explainer. Today, we're diving headfirst into the absolute emotional roller coaster and the massive lore of Demon Slayer's incredible first season. This really isn't just your standard action story. It's this profound, deeply moving tale of trauma, survival, and family, all set against the backdrop of Taisho-era Japan. Let's unpack the precise moments that took a humble charcoal seller and, well, literally turned him into a legend. Okay, picture this. A completely peaceful, snowy day turns into an absolute blood-soaked nightmare. This sudden, heart-wrenching loss just rips Tanjiro Kamado away from his quiet life, and boom, sets our entire story into motion. He comes home to find his family slaughtered. The only survivor? His sister, Nezuko. But, as we know, she's been tragically transformed.
So here's how we're going to break this down today. First, tragedy strikes the Kamados. Then, becoming a demon slayer. Next up, forging a new family, followed by the sheer terror on Mount Natagumo. And finally, we'll wrap up with the Hashira and hope.
All right, let's jump straight into part 1. Tragedy strikes the Kamados.
Now, the thing you gotta understand is that Tanjiro's empathy, that is actually his greatest weapon. Unlike your typical protagonist who's just driven by blind vengeance, Tanjiro's core motivation is purely love. He just wants to cure his sister. And the crazy part, even when he's facing down these absolute monsters who destroy human lives, he shows this heartbreaking compassion for them right as they die. That kindness is exactly what defines his true power.
And this brings us to the central conflict of the entire universe. It's a clash between the absolute, calculating cruelty of the demon progenitor, Muzan, and the lingering warmth inside Nezuko's cursed heart. I mean, think about it. Muzan slaughters innocents simply because he can. But Nezuko, she actually physically steps in to protect Tanjiro, proving without a doubt that a human heart is still beating beneath that terrible curse.
Moving right along to part 2, becoming a demon slayer.
Look at the sheer disparity on this timeline. To even stand a chance, Tanjiro endures 2 agonizing years on Mount Sagiri training under Urokodaki. We're talking lethal traps, completely exhausting exercises, all just to prepare for a mere 7-day survival trial on Mount Fujikasane. It's an absolutely brutal filter. But hey, surviving it is what earns him that iconic, totally unique black Nichiren blade. Of course, to survive nightmares like the Hand Demon, Tanjiro had to master total concentration breathing. This is the absolute cornerstone of all combat in this world. It's basically a way to rapidly increase blood circulation, temporarily pushing a fragile human body to actually match demonic strength. Honestly, without pushing themselves to this extreme physical brink, humanity wouldn't stand a chance.
Which brings us to part 3, forging a new family.
Now, this core trio represents a perfectly chaotic balance on the battlefield. You've got Tanjiro with his highly adaptable water breathing acting as the group's anchor. Then there's Zenitsu, who literally shifts from paralyzing terror to an explosive, lethal prodigy the second he falls asleep using thunder breathing. And rounding it out is Inosuke, bringing relentless, totally unpredictable aggression with his beast breathing.
Through these rapidly escalating encounters, you see Tanjiro naturally become the emotional anchor for these wildly unpredictable new friends. I mean, from taking down the swamp demon in his very first mission, to surviving Muzan's assassins right in the streets of Asakusa, and then conquering Kyogai's crazy reality-shifting Suzumi mansion, their brotherhood is forged entirely in the heat of battle.
All right, let's step into the darkness with part 4, Terror on Mount Natagumo.
The sheer horror of Mount Natagumo really relies on a massive thematic contrast. You have the genuine warmth of the Kamado's true, unconditional sibling bond pitted directly against the cold, calculated manipulation of Rui's fake spider family. Rui, who's a lower moon demon, literally coerces weaker demons into playing out this twisted family dynamic, all under the constant threat of agonizing torture.
So, what happens when true love clashes with forced fear? Well, Rui becomes completely obsessed with Nezuko's genuine, selfless devotion. And when he decides he's just gonna steal her to be his new sister, it sparks a battle of absolute desperation. It's a real game changer.
Pushed to the absolute brink, the siblings combine their hidden legacies to pull off what neither could do alone. Tanjiro awakens the Hinokami Kagura, this breathtaking, devastating flame dance technique. And right at the same moment, Nezuko unlocks her exploding blood demon art. Together, in this unbelievable sequence, they shatter Ru's seemingly unbreakable threads.
Which leads us to our final chapter, part 5, the Hashira and Hope.
Because he's caught traveling with a demon,
Tanjiro is hauled to headquarters and put on trial before the elite Hashira. The Wind Hashira Sanemi actually deliberately tempts Nezuko with his own blood. But against all odds, she turns her head away in disgust. This vital display of willpower proves her restraint to the Corps' absolute harshest critics, and it ultimately secures the protection of Master Ubayashiki himself.
But, they really aren't safe yet. The number 12. That represents the 12 Kizuki, Muzan's elite demonic guard. Now consider this. Rui was merely Lower Moon 5. Just let that sink in. That single number reveals the terrifyingly long and bloody road our heroes still have ahead of them.
So they get this brief, quiet period of recovery at Shinobu's Butterfly Mansion. And it's here the trio transforms their trauma into profound new strength. They literally push past their limits to master constant total concentration breathing, getting their battered bodies ready because they've just received orders for their next very ominous mission, boarding the Mugen train.
At the end of the day, strength grows from compassion, not just vengeance. That is the huge takeaway here. Tanjiro's empathy is the true source of his unbreakable power. He doesn't just fight for a win, he fights for humanity itself, extending a kind hand to the very demons who are turning to ash in front of him. It's this exact, unwavering compassion that unites his friends, protects his sister, and finally earns the respect of the Hashira.
So as Tanjiro steps onto the Mugen train to face Enmu, the demonic Lower Moon 1, the stakes have literally never been higher. Will his unyielding kindness actually be enough to purify this cruel world? It really makes you wonder, right? Well, thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I hope you're just as hyped as I am to see where this incredible journey of compassion and blades takes us next.